In the quiet, seemingly peaceful town of Amityville, New York, stands a house unlike any other. Its red-bricked exterior hides a history that would chill the soul of anyone who dares to uncover its dark secrets. What once was a family home, built with dreams of a new beginning, became a place of unimaginable horror. This is the story of a house that never let go. A house that grew stronger with each passing day, feeding off fear, desperation, and pain. The house at 112 Ocean Avenue has a history stained with blood. Blood that wasn't the first to be spilled on the land it sits upon. Long before the DeFeo family was murdered inside, this land was once sacred to the Native Americans. Beneath its foundation, many believed the spirits of those long gone still lingered. It's said that the land was cursed, and when the DeFeo family moved in, their fate was sealed. But that was only the beginning. Now, decades later, another family will walk into its shadow, unaware of the evil that resides within. They will soon come to realize that some places are never meant to be lived in. Some places are better left untouched, abandoned to the darkness. The Amityville house is not only infamous for the DeFeo family murders, but also for its long and dark history. Known as the Murder House, it was built on land that once served as a burial ground for Native Americans. Rumors suggest that the land had been cursed long before the DeFeo family ever lived there. The Lutz family was once cheerful and full of hope, having just escaped financial ruin. They were looking forward to a fresh start, unaware that this new home would change their lives forever. That first night, the atmosphere in the house thickened. Strange noises echoed from the basement, as if something or someone was lurking beneath the floorboards. Soft, phantom footsteps moved across the upper floors, yet no one was there. George, standing still in the dark, felt a sensation of being watched, and Kathy, plagued by a sudden dizziness, couldn't escape the oppressive feeling weighing down on her chest. The house itself seemed to react to their presence. Doors that shouldn't have opened creaked open, and a peculiar smell lingered in the air, an odor that seemed to come from nowhere. It was as if the house had a life of its own, responding to the intrusion of new inhabitants, with subtle but unmistakable signs of its hostility. Despite the eeriness, the Lutzes tried to dismiss it, attributing the noises to the house settling, but deep down they knew that something was wrong. The unsettling feeling only intensified as night fell, and the house seemed to come alive with every creak and groan of its aged timbers. As days passed, the phenomena escalated. George began to change. His moods grew erratic, and he felt an overwhelming darkness closing in on him. The house seemed to reach into his mind, clouding his judgment, and dragging him into fits of anger and confusion. His thoughts were no longer his own. Sometimes it felt as though an invisible presence was whispering to him, urging him to act in ways he couldn't explain. Kathy, too, experienced the house's oppressive energy. She would catch glimpses of fleeting shadows in mirrors, figures that disappeared when she turned around. And one night, she found something far more disturbing. Blood, it dripped from the ceiling, staining the carpet in the living room. Her scream echoed through the house, but George, now deep under the house's influence, dismissed it as nothing more than her overactive imagination. But Kathy couldn't ignore it. The blood was real, the fear was real, and as much as she tried to convince herself otherwise, she couldn't escape the fact that the house was changing them. The longer they stayed, the more they lost themselves. The house didn't want them to leave. As much as they tried to escape, it was as though the house had become a part of them, absorbing their fear, feeding off their emotions. George, no longer himself, began to lash out at Kathy. He nearly attacked her, but she fought back with all her strength. She could feel the battle within him, the battle between the man she loved and the force that was consuming him. One night, they both woke to a chilling sight. A figure outside their bedroom window, staring at them with eyes that seemed to burn into their souls. The figure was not of this world. Kathy's breath caught in her throat as she reached for George. But when she turned to him, she saw the same fear in his eyes. He could see it too. The house had brought them together in fear, and now it was pulling them further apart. Desperate, the Lutz family turned to paranormal experts for help. The experts, upon entering the house, were immediately struck by the overwhelming presence of darkness that filled the air. It was unlike anything they had ever encountered. They attempted to perform an exorcism, but the house fought back with all its might. One of the experts, frozen in place during the ritual, collapsed, unable to move, as if the house had drained all of his strength. The house was too powerful. The evil it harbored had become a living entity, and no amount of ritual or prayer seemed capable of driving it out. The spirits, both malevolent and restless, surrounded them, making it clear that the Lutzes were not welcome. As the exorcism failed, the house's grip on the family tightened, its sinister presence now undeniable. The once peaceful house had slowly turned into a prison, a place where the boundaries between reality and the supernatural had blurred. George Lutz, the man who had once been full of hope for a new life, began to feel himself slipping away. It was as if the house had claimed him, controlling his thoughts, his actions, and his very soul. He could feel the darkness seeping into his mind, pulling him further from the person he once was. His behavior grew increasingly erratic. He became aggressive towards Kathy and their children. Every word he spoke felt like it came from somewhere else, as if another force was speaking through him. Kathy, terrified and helpless, could do nothing to stop it. She tried to reason with him, but her words fell on deaf ears. George was no longer the man she had married. He seemed lost, consumed by something that was far beyond her understanding. The house had taken hold of him, and now it was taking hold of her as well. Kathy's own fear began to grow. She started to see strange, terrifying figures that appeared out of nowhere. One night, as she sat in the living room, an elderly woman with hollow, empty eyes stared at her from across the room. Kathy's heart pounded in her chest, and she could feel the walls closing in around her. The house wasn't just influencing George, it was affecting her too. She felt trapped, surrounded by the growing presence of something dark and powerful. One night, as George's behavior reached a boiling point, he screamed in agony, unable to control the rage that surged within him. It was as if the house had taken over completely. Outside the window, Kathy saw a figure standing in the dark, watching them, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The Lutz family, desperate to survive, knew that they had to face the evil within the house. They realized that if they didn't escape, they would be consumed by it. Even though George was almost entirely under the house's control, he understood that their only chance was to leave. The house had made it clear it was not going to let them go easily. The family had to fight for their lives. As they tried to leave, the house began to reveal its true nature. The walls seemed to shift and distort, twisting in unnatural ways. Rooms that were once familiar vanished and reappeared in different places, as if the house itself was alive, trying to keep them trapped within its grasp. The house groaned, shaking as though it were trying to destroy itself along with the Lutz family. Terrified but determined, the family ran. They sprinted through the halls, trying to get outside, to escape the suffocating grip of the house. But even as they reached the door, the house was still with them. The sounds of creaking doors and footsteps followed them relentlessly. The house was not finished with them yet. The Lutz family left, but the house remained. It stood silently in the town of Amityville, a dark symbol of the evil that had claimed it. Though the family had escaped, many believed that the spirits within the house had not left. The house had been a place of unimaginable horrors, and it still seemed to pulse with the remnants of the dark forces that had once held it in their grip. Over the years, others had moved in, hoping to make a fresh start. But those who dared to live there reported similar experiences: disturbing figures, strange noises, and inexplicable events that they could not explain. Some claimed that the house was alive, controlling everything around it, and that it drew in those who entered, trapping them in its dark, suffocating embrace. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any of our creepy stories. Also, turn on the notification bell. See you in the next video. And remember, never be alone in the dark.